Hi, I'm Mike Pumphrey from Empathic Finance, and today I want to talk about a really formative experience that I had when I was just starting to do money coaching. It's kind of like my origin story. It's a story I've never told in public until today, so really looking forward to doing this. It starts with Dave Ramsey. Now, I've talked about Dave Ramsey before in a few different places, about how I first heard about him. I was driving across the country, it was late at night, I was tuning around on the AM dial, and I heard this crazy person talking about how anyone could become a millionaire. You need $100 a month, it's just $100, latte breath. And I remember thinking, who is this person? It was really compelling, really enjoyable, really forceful, really passionate about money and about helping people get ahead. Got a bunch of his books, saw him in person, got more involved with the Dave Ramsey shtick. I eventually ended up taking a class with his team. Not with him, he wasn't around, but with some members of his team. And I should point out, this was not Financial Peace University. This was something different. Now, as I tell this story, I want to be clear that I'm intentionally being vague with some of the details, mainly because I don't want to malign anyone personally. I have no interest in calling anyone out. I have no interest in doing that sort of thing. All I want to do is talk about my experience and what this experience meant to me. So, as I said, I was in a class with members of the Dave Ramsey team, and we were talking about coaching and financial coaching. And I want to relay this conversation that we had at one point, which is one of many, but it was one that really hit to the heart of what I do or what I want to do, what I'm really about. Also, I do have the advantage that I was actually recording this conversation, so I know exactly what was said and by whom. Now, in this conversation, we were talking about coaching couples. Now, I've talked about this a lot on my site over the years, the different ways that couples can combine or not combine finances depending on their situation. The conversation clearly seemed to be purely devoted to married couples. So we were only talking about single people and married couples, and there was nothing else in between. And in my experience, there's a lot in between. And from a practical perspective, I wanted to know, is there a difference in the way that they recommend coaching clients when they're not married? There was part of me that was kind of leading the question somewhere, but we'll get to that. Really what I wanted to know is, what is the difference between coaching clients who are married and coaching clients who aren't? So in order to not misrepresent myself, I actually have a transcript of this conversation that I'm going to read from, because like I said, I have the audio of this. This actually happened. So here was my first question. I'm curious how your coaching changes in a situation where there isn't a legal status. For example, a same-sex couple in a state that can't marry, or an unmarried couple living together. Married couples have certain legal and financial protections, and I'm wondering how your coaching changes when that doesn't apply. Now, I should point out that this was a few years ago, and before same-sex marriages were legalized across the country. So it was a little bit out of date there, but still, the question still holds. And here was the response. I don't counsel them differently, generally. If it's a male and a female that are living together in a relationship, I would coach them and encourage them to get married at some point. Now, at this point, I was a little bit of a wise guy, and I kind of wanted to lead the question somewhere else. And what I said in response was, sure, if that's an option. Meaning that, yes, it would be great to get married if you could, but not everyone can. I'm not really sure what I was expecting in response, but the response I got blew my mind. Here, in full, edited for brevity, is the response I got. With a same-sex couple, it's a little different, because we have a moral commitment to the fact that we like one woman, one man in that situation. I'm gay-friendly, because God says I'm supposed to love everybody. But I'm not gay condemning either, because my goal in life is not to condemn people. Scripture 2 Corinthians 5 says, I'm not to count other people's sins against them, but I have to be a minister of reconciliation, explaining to them how they can have a relationship with God. On the other side, I'm not gay affirming. In other words, it's not that I don't like gay people, But I recognize that I don't want to affirm their agenda in terms of a practical lifestyle that I think is something that they should emulate. That's just me, personally. Some people, because of my gay lack of affirmation, will say that I'm a bigot, because that's the politically correct thing to do. But I recognize if you look at the definition in the dictionary of a bigot, I'm a bigot, because I don't always agree with everybody else on what they do and what they believe, and I'm okay with that. Did he just say all that out loud? There's so much to unpack in that huge diatribe that it's almost overwhelming, but I feel like it's important to just backtrack and kind of put some commentary into what I heard. So let's go back through this. He said, we have a moral commitment to the fact that we like one woman, one man. And my first thought is, who is we? I mean, was he talking about the Dave Ramsey organization? Was he talking about the Brotherhood of Mankind? Was he the royal we? Like, who was that? Next, when someone says, I'm gay friendly, you kind of get the feeling that they're not. My favorite part of this whole thing is when he said that it's not that he doesn't like gay people, he just doesn't want to affirm their agenda. And at that point, I was like, get the popcorn. Someone is going to finally tell me what the gay agenda is. I've been wanting to know that for years, and here I thought gay people were just like everyone else trying to live their life free from prejudice and discrimination. But apparently, there's an agenda. But he disappointed me. There was no gay agenda that he talked about. He just talked about the fact that he didn't like their lifestyle. And so, I guess the gay agenda is people living the life that they want to live. It's not much of an agenda, but okay. And then he pulled out the political correctness card. He said, I guess I'm a bigot, because that's the politically correct thing to say. That's wrong on many reasons, because calling someone a bigot isn't politically correct if it's descriptive. In fact, let's talk about what that definition of a bigot is. Here's the definition of bigot. A person who is obstinately or intolerantly devoted to his or her own opinions and prejudices, especially one who regards or treats the members of a group, such as a racial or ethnic group, with hatred and intolerance. So, that's not political correctness. Calling him a bigot is kind of a fact. It's almost too much to handle, to be honest. But let's not forget what's going on here. After that whole diatribe, after that whole thing, he never actually answered my question. And to be honest, I wasn't really sure how to continue. I kind of stammered and said, okay, I get that. I guess, aside from the politics, I was curious about the mechanics of it. That was about the best I could do because I was too busy trying to pick my jaw off the floor. And here's the kicker. Here's the part that made everything else small by comparison. We actually ask both of them to pay for coaching. See, my goal is not to beat people up. My goal is to help people in one way or another. But since we don't recognize them as a couple, if they want to come in together, we ask them both to pay. So they charge unmarried and same-sex couples double. And this was not just one person's opinion. This was policy. I mean, I didn't get independent confirmation of this, but he wasn't saying, oh, I choose to charge people twice what everyone else does. He was saying, this is what we do. If you're a same-sex couple, or if you're even unmarried, you gotta pay twice what a married couple does. I was really upset. I was really just kind of struggling with this, like this company and these people and these words and using biblical references and charging people who are different from you twice as much as people who aren't. And I don't know, I didn't really know what to do with it. It was actually my dad who put it into perspective for me, and he said, it's not that the Bible has, inherent bigotry in it. It's just that people have inherent bigotry, and they pull justification from wherever they want. So, if you're a bigot and you happen to be religious, you can find intolerance in there. But you could find anything else in there too. And that helped because that allowed me to kind of separate the idea of religion from intolerance, which is something we see so much, religious intolerance. And inherently, the two are not the same, or they don't have to be the same. They're just unfortunately very often conflated. But here's what I'm getting at here. I was talking with an organization that does not value people who are different from them. In order to work within the system, you needed to be a very narrow demographic. Where were the people to go who were different? Who were not religious? Who were atheist or agnostic? Who were gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender? Or people who are in multiple relationships, who practice polyamory, people who were just not within the frame of standard dominant culture. Where were they supposed to go? Who was talking to them? If you're part of dominant culture, then there are plenty of outlets for you. There are plenty of places you can go to get information, advice, help. People who are there to help you because you look and act just like they do. And I realized, I want to work with everyone else. I want to work with the people who don't fit in, who don't fit into that narrow mold of what it means to be normal. I want to work with the heathens. I want to work with the people who are out there, doing things different, living life on their own terms, not prescribing the standard narrow jello mold of American society. I don't really know where that came from. Nothing wrong with jello. I want to help everyone else. The people who aren't being spoken to by traditional financial media. And I'm not picking on Dave Ramsey. There's plenty of this out there. There's plenty of voices that are speaking to the middle. And I want to speak to the middle. Middle's taken care of. We spend too much time in the middle. I want to talk about the people on the edges, on the side, doing things differently, living life differently. Those are the people who I want to help. So I joked, I want to be the Dave Ramsey for the heathens. It's not maybe as catchy as it could be, but it's a good start. And yes, let's admit, I'm a white dude, so I get lots of privilege baked in, and you can very easily say, well, what do you get off trying to help people who are different and whatever? Here's the thing, no one I know can stomach someone like Dave Ramsey. They listen to him and they're like, oh, God, I can't stand him. But why throw out the good ideas along with the bad ideas? There's nothing saying that you need to be intolerant to give good financial advice. That's just how it ends up happening. And so, from then on, my guiding principle has really always been to find people who are on the margins. Find those people who aren't being spoken to, who need help, and help them. Thanks for watching. As always, hit all those buttons that let me know that you like what I'm doing. Leave a comment. I'd love to get some comments. Love to talk with you in the comment section. I never thought I'd say that. YouTube comments are often terrible, but whatever. Let's buck the trend. Until next time, stay safe. Take care.